This is the Washington Times front page for Wednesday, June 2nd, 2021. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. A Democratic plan to force down the prices of prescription drugs is gaining momentum in Congress, promising huge savings for the elderly but risking less innovation from a downsized pharmaceutical industry. Tom Howe reports House Democrats are proposing legislation to empower Medicare to negotiate down U.S. drug prices to levels that other countries pay. Budget scorekeepers say the bill, which wields excise taxes against drug makers that refuse to negotiate lower prices, will reduce consumer costs of impacted drugs by an average of 55%. The Congressional Budget Office, however, also cautioned that U.S. drug makers would put 8 fewer new drugs on the market in 10 years, with less revenue going their way. Drug makers say setting price limits in the Medicare prescription benefit program and fining companies that refuse to cooperate looks like a form of extortion. President Biden wants the bill passed and on his desk by the end of this year. A major pipeline protest is taking shape in northern Minnesota, where opponents are seeking to mobilize thousands of protesters to disrupt construction on the Alberta to Wisconsin project known as Line 3. Valerie Richardson reports Enbridge Energy, the Canadian company that owns the pipeline, is ramping up work on a critical stretch of the $4 billion pipeline replacement, even as dozens of environmental groups prepare for a show of opposition this weekend. Enbridge says the upgrade of the 337-mile segment of the 1,000-mile oil pipeline is 60% complete. About 250 protesters have already been arrested over Line 3 for tactics such as chaining themselves to equipment, blocking roads, and blockading construction sites. Most of the remaining work on the pipeline is scheduled for this summer. Here locally in Maryland, Metro reporter Emily Zanto looks at one area school district that is keeping school resource officers from local police departments in schools. The Prince George's County Board of Education voted in March to keep its 33 school resource officers in district schools. A survey of 13,000 PG residents found that 82% said they believe the officers are very important to maintaining a safe teaching environment. Education officials there are taking a different course as other school districts struggle to balance safety concerns with growing evidence that minority students suffer the harshest punishment for criminal misbehavior. Prince George's population is nearly 65% black, according to the Census Bureau. Neighboring Montgomery County, which is Maryland's largest school district with more than 160,000 students, is still deliberating over what to do with their school resource officers. A reminder that you can find all these stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page. Don't have access to the Times yet? Visit WashingtonTimes.com/George and get 25% off your annual subscription. The former head of the CIA's Defector Resettlement Program says the agency is quietly providing lifetime security for several hundred high-value defectors who work secretly for the United States and fled Russia, China, and other hostile states. Bill Gertz talked with Joseph Augustin, who spent 28 years in the agency's clandestine service before retiring in 2004. He says that most defectors who enter the CIA's Covert Security and Resettlement Program change their names and quietly adapt to their new lives, and that those that don't risk assassination. The CIA can bring in up to 100 defectors and their families a year under a 1949 law, although it's unlikely the agency ever reached its limit. Unlike the Witness Protection Program that's run by the U.S. Marshal Service, the CIA does not kick out those who fail to follow the rules. And finally, Dave Boyer profiles venture capitalist J.D. Vance, who's preparing for a Senate run in Ohio. He's best known as the author of Hillbilly Elegy, the best-selling and controversial memoir about his upbringing in eastern Kentucky and southwestern Ohio. He's formed an exploratory committee to consider a bid next year for the seat that Republican Senator Rob Portman is vacating. Aiding Vance is Silicon Valley billionaire Peter Thiel, who has donated $10 million to a political action committee supporting his bid. Find all of today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and subscribe for free to the front page. Just search Washington Times on your favorite podcast platforms. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at WashTimes for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.